and welcome to this week's edition of Beyond Wall Street, the show that helps take the mystery out of what's going on in Wall Street and helps it make sense for you on your street. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio, we have Kenny Porter. He is the president and founder of Kenneth Porter and Company, based right here in the Hampton Roads area, and Wesley Gomez, Chief Investment Officer. Kenny and Wesley, it's great to be back with you in the Hampton Roads this week. How are you?
Great to be back on the show with you. Thank you.
Good to be back.
Well, it's always a great time with you guys. We laugh so much. We have a lot of fun. You share a lot of valuable information. And another thing that really sets you all apart, which you know I'm passionate about as well, is that you serve a lot of military families. And all of us here at this desk have ties, family ties, directly to the military. And with being in the military, being a part of that community, comes a unique set of things that really do affect retirement planning. And I know you're really passionate about helping folks navigate that. So real quick, for viewers who are newer to us, I would love for you to share a little bit about your military backgrounds.
Yeah, so for those in the Hampton Roads community, I'm a prior Marine, a crayon-eating Marine for all my sailor buddies out there. they'll get that.
Right.
So, you know, in my family, Kristen, I was a Marine for almost 10 years. But that didn't just start with me. My father served in the Army. My son now currently serves with the 101st Airborne out in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And he's coming to work with me in March when he leaves the Army. That's going to be really exciting. Yeah. And then my father-in-law is a captain in the Navy. My wife's biological father was a colonel in the Air Force. And so we've had a lot of experience in working with military retirees, veterans, their spouses, and the unique circumstances that come with serving our country. So I would say probably 70+% of our clients, especially in Hampton Roads, has some military connection. Right. And one of the great things that we were able to add this year to our firm is a program through the SOCOM community called SkillBridge, where we're bringing on our first advisor in January who served 22 years with the Navy in the special operations community. And he's decided he wants to be in the financial business. And he started out as a client of our firm. So what an honor it's been to be able to serve that community and have one of our clients decide that, hey, I want to come serve alongside of you, Kenny, Wes, in the financial business. So it's really exciting.
And I know you have ties as well.
Yeah, I grew up an Air Force brat, born at Keesler Air Force Base in Biloxi, Mississippi. Dad was in the Air Force a little over 10, 12 years. And then my grandfather actually fought in World War II.
Wow.
He's buried at Punch Bowl now, and kind of a funny story real quick. He was in basic training, he got drafted, and then Japan surrendered. But the communication was terrible back then, so he still had to go out there on the ship and still fight, but he always jokes that Japan surrendered because he joined.
Wow. Well, and I grew up, my grandfather was the Army, my dad Navy, my brother Naval Academy, then he transferred to the Air Force. I have lots of happy memories spending summers at Dam Neck and Oceana, so definitely, you know, it's a military thing and it's a family affair, and so we want to just take a moment and say thank you to all of you
just
for
want
your
to say
service.
Thank you for the sacrifices that you and your family have made. You know, our veterans were at war for 20 years. And there's still ongoing conflict. So we always want to say a big thank you and a salute to all of our veterans and their family members who have served.
Absolutely, because it certainly is a family affair. Yes,
Absolutely.
Thank you. Well, we're going to be talking today. Actually, last week's show, we did an entire show talking about risk tolerance, your risk capacity, how that needs to change as you are approaching and entering retirement. We got such a great response from that show. We wanted to take the conversation a little bit deeper this week and specifically talk about market volatility and your retirement date, because while we can't control what the market's doing, and we especially can't control what the market's doing when we plan to retire, therefore we need to be proactively planning for all the possibilities and the what ifs that could happen, right? So that it doesn't derail our retirement plans. So Wesley, I know that this show also was inspired by a recent conversation that you had with a client. So I would love for you to share that with our viewers.
Yeah, we recently had some clients come in, a couple in the early 60s. Kind of a typical, client of ours, have over $1 million in various accounts, qualified, non-qualified accounts, can get Medicare and Social Security, but they're at that retirement red zone, which we always keep talking about. And again, they want to reduce that risk in the portfolio. They said we've lost a lot in the dot-com crash, housing crisis. We want to retire in about 3 or 4 years.
We don't want that to happen to us,
Don't
right?
want that to happen. You know, what strategies or what can you do? You know, it's not just the equity side, you know, the accumulation side. They rebuilt that wealth after losing a lot of those dollars. But again, what's going to give them that peace of mind? What's going to let them sleep at night knowing that those assets are working in their favor?
Right. And we should just define for anyone who isn't familiar with this retirement red zone, what we're referring to is being within 5 to 10 years outside of retirement. Both those years before retiring and after retiring are very, very critical to the success of your overall retirement plan.
That's right. Yeah. You know, I would add to that, I use the concept all the time of Mount Everest and the story of Mount Everest, that many of our clients starting this journey on the accumulation phase. So that you're going up the mountain, that's your savings, your earnings years, the W-2 years.
Right.
And as you accumulate these assets, you finally get to this target date. You get to this retirement date. And that retirement date for most people, Kristen, is staking that flag at the top of their financial mountain and saying, I've made it, I'm here, now what do I do? And the rest of that story is where we pick up.
Right.
Our firm specializes in the retirement distribution phase, which is the most important phase, because now that retirement red's on, what happens if market volatility comes into play? Do you have a plan? Do you have a strategy to mitigate or minimize that distribution phase when markets could disrupt your cash flows? Or we referred to it in the last show as a sequence of returns risk.
Right.
So coming down that mountain is what we refer to as the distribution phase. And I throw this stat out often, that 70% of mountain and rock climbing accidents, they happen on the distribution phase. They happen on the way down the mountain. And so it's important to understand that when that risk is also in your money, not just mountain and rock climbing,
Right.
you want to be able to create strategy and plans that takes that into consideration and that risk of potentially running out of money. That's the biggest fear that we hear from our prospects who then become clients.
Right.
And so we want to deal with that emotion in a logical, efficient, and effective manner.
Yeah, and I think it goes to about, are you controlling the variables in your entire financial picture that you can control?
Right.
Right? We can't control the direction of the market, which way interest rates are heading, which way inflation's heading. I'm sure we all felt that over the last year or two.
There's so much that we can't control.
Exactly. But, you know, the strategies that we're talking about with, you know, with our clients, we want to make sure that we're employing those because you can control variables. They're going to increase your chances of success.
Right.
One way to think about it, Kristen, is a little formula. E plus R equals O.
E plus R equals O. All
So
right,
in this
define
formula
that
of E
for us.
plus R equals O, the E stands for the events. Financial events are going to occur in your life. You're going to have markets ups, market downs. So the events we can't control, as Wes just said. So events create outcomes, the O, E plus R equals O. The only thing that you can control in that is how you respond, the R in the formula. So response has to do with how we strategically create strategy to mitigate that emotion of responding to the event. And in a way, if the markets are down, most people are like, Kenny, Wes, get me out of this. I don't want to be exposed to that. And that could sometimes be an overreaction. So if we come up with a plan and a strategy that deals with our responses ahead of time,
Right.
that reverse engineered process will give us better outcomes than if we're just kind of shooting from the hip, so to speak.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, strategy, we're going to be talking about the rest of the show about different investment strategies and what's best for someone who's in this retirement red zone. But if someone's watching right now and they would like some help developing their own investment strategy and preparing for these crucial years, what would you say to that individual?
I would say, you can't get a second opinion from the first person that gave it to you. And what I would offer to you today is a complimentary review where we can look at your current portfolio, what we refer to as your present position, and we can give you an opportunity, complimentary, to review those positions and see if there's a response change that can be made. And in doing so, all you need to do is pick up the phone and call us at 844-575-8071, and someone on our team will be happy to schedule a complimentary review to look at your current strategies to see if we can improve them.
Wonderful. Kenny, Wesley, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, again, that number to call is 844-575-8071 to receive your very own complimentary strategy review. Or if you'd like, you're also welcome to take out your smartphone. If you open up the camera app and you point, click, and scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, that will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary strategy review session that way as well. More on this week's edition of Beyond Wall Street right after this.
Yeah, what's interesting about my journey in the financial services industry is it happened by mistake. My early career was in the Marine Corps, serving in the United States Marine Corps. I had a position that was offered to me to leave the Marine Corps and go into the railway. Well, as quickly as I was hired, I was part of a RIF, a reduction in force. So I lost my job with the railway, and now being unemployed, I was on a mission of panic to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Well, my father-in-law happened to refer me to a planning firm that he was working with, and was given an opportunity to go to work with this financial planning firm in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And they were hiring veterans. I interviewed for the position, and my mentor at that time was the owner of that firm and gave me an opportunity in the financial business and sent me through a ton of different financial training in schools to be able to serve clients 27 years later. So 27 years in the business. I had a little 3-year hiatus where I'd sold my advisory firm and took some time off, wrote a book, and then launched Kenneth Porter & Company January 1st of 2012. Seeing the excitement of a retiree being able to say, you know what, Kenny and his team has helped me have the confidence to go into retirement without the fear of running out of money or having too little money in their retirement. There's nothing better than to see that person walk out with that confidence. It just makes me feel great.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Wall Street. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with Kenny Porter and Wesley Gomez from Kenneth Porter & Company, based right here in Hampton Roads. And we are having a very important conversation today on market volatility, especially as it relates to entering the retirement red zone. Those critical years when you are approaching retirement and first starting out your retirement can be so crucial to the success of your overall retirement plan. And so my question is, I know that there's lots of individual personalized situations and factors and that there's no one-size-fits-all approach. But typically, what do you find is the best investment strategy for someone who is in this retirement red zone?
Wes, you want to take it or you want me to answer that one?
I think you got this one.
So, very simply put, the strategy is a bucket strategy. You know, we want to use ideas and concepts first to be able to get down into complex and make it not so complex. And so we use these analogies of a bucket strategy. You have a liquid bucket, and that's where your immediate ready reserve cash can be. Now, you're going to have a downside exposure to that. It's not going to have the greatest yields because you have immediate liquidity, use, and control of the money.
Right.
But that liquidity bucket serves a purpose. And then we're going to have a protected income bucket. And that protected income bucket is going to serve a purpose. We now should have better yields, we should have higher yields, and we should have the opportunity to not have exposure to market volatility. So that protected income bucket is the bucket that we use to mitigate and minimize volatility in the stock market.
Right.
And then that third bucket is what we refer to as your growth bucket. That bucket gives you the opportunity for your money to grow for 20 plus years without the need to have to take distributions from it. And what we have found, and we go back and look at the science of the markets, if you look at over the last 100 years, and you look at any 20-year rolling average, you'll see that the markets has always had positive performance. But if you shrink that, Kristen, into 1, 3, 5, 10-year buckets, you'll see multiple negative years within those shortened time frames. And so what we're really trying to do, and what Wes and his team does on the asset management side, the portfolio of stocks and bonds, that portfolio, we need to be able to have an opportunity to let it grow, to let it ferment, to let it have the opportunity for growth without taking distributions. And so that protected income bucket is purpose-driven for specifically taking the need that you have for cash flow after your pensions, after your Social Security, and any other guaranteed asset that can come off that protected side, we want to fill the gaps on that.
Right.
And that tells us how much then can go into that growth bucket.
Yeah, and it's very important that that growth bucket, even though there may be some guarantees in those other buckets, that you want to control those factors. So here's a little fun fact. So about 26, 27 years ago, there were over 8,000 actively traded U.S. stocks. All right. How many actively traded stocks do you think there are today?
Oh gosh, from 8,000, I don't know.
Wes, what's the answer?
Actually, less.
I knew it had gone down, but I don't.
There's less than 4,000 actively traded U.S. stocks now. So
Okay.
again, with that data, what does that mean to all of us, to all the investors out there? The markets have shrunk by half.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's trillions of more dollars out there. So if you're in that retirement red zone, you need to make sure that your asset allocation is being controlled by a lot of different factors. And
great
I
point.
want to get a little bit granular here. Just real quickly, you want to look at size of company, right?
Right.
Large cap, mid cap, small cap. You want to look at the style of company, right? Value, growth, or blend.
Right.
But then another sector that a lot of people overlook is the sectors, right? There's roughly about 10 U.S. sectors out there.
Right. Meaning like technology or
healthcare,
like,
exactly. And I like index investing, but it's up to the client situation, what their goals are. If you look at the broad market, the S&P 500 index, if you look at the top 3 sectors, that's about 54% of the entire U.S. market.
Wow. Yeah.
So if you're in that retirement red zone, are you comfortable having over half of your portfolio in just 3 sectors out of 10?
Great point.
Right. That's something you have to ask yourself. Am I invested to my goals correctly?
Right. Well, and this brings up another point that I know we've talked about off the air that we're both super passionate about, and that is helping folks understand, are you truly diversified?
Yep.
I think a lot of folks think that they are diversified appropriately. They think, oh, yes, I have tons of mutual funds. I'm really well diversified. But when you peel back what those funds are invested in, what do you typically find?
Well, I hate saying this, but it's the same ingredients, right? When you're looking at food labels, there's the same culprits. You look at a large cap fund from company A, large cap company from fund B, they're going to have like the Apples, the Googles.
Right.
So
they
when
all
you
have the same stocks, right?
Yeah, you analyze it in the aggregate of all your accounts, you're going to find out that you are concentrated. Again, depending on what your situation is, it may work in your favor. But if you're in that retirement red zone, you're taking a lot of unnecessary risk.
Without even realizing.
And the flip side is that you're missing out on growth on the areas that you're underinvested in. So again, it's having that risk-reward balance that's going to help you get to your goals. Again, we want the higher returns, but we got to make sure we can mitigate that easy risk and reduce that.
Absolutely.
It's the concept of peeling back the onion and taking consequences that are unknown and turning them into knowns so that we don't have unintended consequences or unintended events.
Right.
And part of what I would add to that concept, Wes, would be thinking about the correlation to non-correlated assets.
Yes, talk about that, because that's one of the reports that you run for folks when they come in for a strategy review, is this figuring out how correlated their investments are, right?
That's exactly right. And I think, Kristen, that I want to keep this at a 40,000 foot view today, but in correlation, it's what exposure do you have to certain stocks or certain investments in your portfolio? That's important to know. But what's also equally important is how can we develop an uncorrelated asset to create buffers, meaning we're not going to be directly exposed to market volatility in a portion of your portfolio. And that can be solved with even like that liquid account we talked about earlier. It can be solved with, I know folks don't like to hear the A word, but it can be solved with annuity strategies. But you got to look for low cost. There's a lot of different types of financial products out there. And there's a lot of great annuities, and then there's a lot of bad annuities.
Right.
And we pride ourselves on working with our clients to expose them to the great financial products that are available at low to no cost in terms of fees. And then you can think about things like even max funded permanent life insurance as a non-correlated asset for your investment portfolio. And most people think of that product as, oh, once I retire, the need's not there. And so we like to focus on that non-correlated asset as, what are the wants? And if we can solve for the wants in our non-correlated positions to offset risk, that's a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly, so much goes into this. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of folks are very familiar from being in the accumulation phase of that buy and hold strategy, right?
Right.
You
Yeah.
kind of the set it and forget it.
Yeah.
That doesn't work anymore when you're in this phase of life.
No, and I hate saying it, but that's the easy part, right? You're working hard, you're putting max funding your 401k, maybe using an IRA. Again, that's the easy part. 5 years out from retirement, you're in that retirement red zone, taking the dollars out and getting the most of those dollars out to keep instead of giving a large portion to Uncle Sam, you know?
And again, it's just bringing together actuarial science, the guarantees,
Right.
with the investments, because you need both. And you have to think about this over the retirement distribution phase, could be 30 to 40 years. So imagine having 30 to 40 years, Kristen, with no paycheck.
I know. Well, we're living longer than we ever have before. This is something this generation, previous
Right.
generations didn't have to plan for this long of a time in retirement.
And you have to replace that paycheck. And so it has to be replaced with your assets. There's a lot of folks outside of our military friends and family who have retired with a pension that they well deserve. But there's a large sector of our economy who those pensions have gone away, and it got replaced with 401k plans versus
Right.
defined benefit
Defined
plans.
contributions.
Defined contribution.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So in that defined contribution plan, they're putting money into that plan out of their own paycheck.
Right.
And now they have to turn their retirement into cash flow, AKA the defined benefit plan, or make it a pension.
Yep.
And so there's a portion of your assets that we need for cash flow. And that portion of those assets should be uncorrelated to the disruptions of the market.
Right.
And then the correlated side, which is where Wes has that expertise, is that when we want to put money at work in the investment world, we don't want to have that risk of having to take money from that correlated position.
Right.
We want to take the income from the non-correlated side.
Absolutely. So much goes into this strategy. And if you're at home and you're thinking, wow, I had no idea that I need to be thinking through all of these things. And if this is new to you, the good news is you don't have to be an expert in it. You just get to be an expert in you. And this is not new to Kenny and Wesley and the team of Kenneth Porter and Company. They would love to help and assist you. So we encourage you for your own complimentary strategy review. All you need to do is call that number on the bottom of your screen, 844-575-8071, or you can get connected by scanning that QR code as well. More on Beyond Wall Street right after this. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there or be square. Happy birthday to you. As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion...
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Beyond Wall Street. I'm Kristen Oakley here with Kenny Porter and Wesley Gomez, and we've been talking today about the importance of having a solid investment strategy in place to help you navigate market volatility, especially when it comes time for you to enter retirement. Those are such crucial years. And I want to go back to something we were talking about the importance of being truly diversified and what true diversification actually means. There's another type of diversification that I know that you are really passionate about educating folks on. That is tax diversification. Are you properly diversified from a tax perspective? So touch on that for us.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. What I have found over 27 years in my career is that we've all been taught to postpone the tax. And postponing the tax is through your qualified retirement plans, 401k, TSP, SARSEP, Simples, IRAs, that during the 1970s when these plans became really popular because defined benefit plans were going away, defined contribution entered, we created this environment where we were saving in a pre-tax account, and these pre-tax accounts deferred not only the tax, but the tax calculation. So it's important, and when you're looking at your portfolios, if you're heavily weighted in a pre-tax account, we use some software where we're able to do some tax mapping. And this tax mapping allows us to reverse engineer ahead of time, not at the end of the tax year, but looking into the future based on what we know to be true about income taxes today. We can actually show you how to uncorrelate some of that tax risk in your portfolio by looking at Roth conversions or Roth alternatives to be able to minimize and mitigate what the future tax may be on your portfolio as you start in that income distribution phase.
Yeah. Again, we can't control the tax rate.
Right,
But
or
again,
the tax law changes.
The tax law changes.
Right.
But again, there are things that we can do, when you're about to retire, or even something down the road coming, RMDs, right? So
Those
again,
required minimum distributions.
the earlier you get ahead of that with tax mapping that we do at our firm, goal is least amount of taxes that you're going to pay when you have to do those RMDs, or maybe you don't have to.
Right.
It just depends on the game plan that's created for you.
Right.
And I think it's important to remember that there's marginal rates in the U.S. now. The marginal rates start at 10%, go as high as 37%, plus whatever your current state that you live in, your domicile. Outside of that, you've got to think about what's your real effective rate. And the effective rate is really how much income tax did you pay on what you earned. And if we can reduce that effective rate through efficient tax strategies, you're going to win in the retirement distribution phase.
Well, I know this is something you're really passionate about doing, and I'm excited for more folks to connect with you as a result of today's episode. So thank you both for being here. And to our viewers, we appreciate you watching. Again, that number to call to get your own complimentary strategy review session is 844-575-8071. We appreciate you watching. Until next time, be safe, be happy, be blessed. We look forward to being back with you next week.